it just gets to be a feed forward, positive feedback loop.
We're going to talk more about the evaluation, which absolutely is a very important step and the final step in the Thomas and Kern model. But I want to get back to the implementation thing because this is so difficult. And I know that we had an attempt as an institution to spread the curriculum to attending physicians within our hospital network. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that went and what your experiences were?
Right. I mean, we did it more kind of a pilot within our rotation, and then once we had those data, we were able to approach the hospital and engage laparoscopic surgeons throughout the system on their desire to learn this procedure better, and it was adopted as a quality improvement project for the system, and all interested surgical faculty who wanted to learn how to do this, did the training. And beyond our local system, to go more regionally and nationally, there's been a bigger push and an interest in this, and so we started setting out feelers at regional and national meetings, and we're able to set up our curriculum. set up our simulator, and put residents and faculty at outside institutions through a curriculum, through basically just a quick curriculum, a pre-test, to get them interested in it. And then it generated so much interest that the main two surgical societies, the SAGES and the American College of Surgeons, said, we want your curriculum. Teach our surgeons how to do this. And so we were involved in several nationally based skills curriculum at those national meetings. And then again, I said that there's been additional interest in some new technology for industry, for some industry partners. And again, that has also been borne out nationally. And so there's a great groundswell. And it's just been so rewarding to think that this little curriculum that started has grown so much, and it just has played a much larger impact.
Pretty awesome stuff. And the reason it's been so successful is the evaluation and the rigorous process you use to evaluate the translational outcomes from the curriculum. So we know, obviously, per mastery learning standards, that skills were improved in the lab. But what happened when these surgeons actually went to the operating room then?
Right. So, the main metrics that we looked at were length of stay. That was the key component that probably drives down hospital cost. But we wanted to make sure that the procedure was just as successful as the standard two-procedure way of doing it. So we looked at complication rates and success rates, and those were equal. And so then we're really left with, okay, we can do it at one time, and what's the benefit to the patient? The patient can get out of the hospital faster. There's less anesthetic risks with one operation as opposed to two procedures. And so that was the ultimate benefit. And then when we looked at the cost of implementing our simulation-based mastery learning curriculum, we were able to find some return on investment of approximately 4-to-1 is what it ended up being. We saved about $2,000 per clinical case. The hospital saved that amount of money, and when you balanced the cost of our training, it was a clear win for the healthcare system as well.
So for our listeners that aren't surgeons, and I'm not a surgeon certainly, I want to just explain real quickly when you're referring to two procedures versus one. So someone has gallstones and you go in to remove them, And the traditional way of doing that is you remove the gallbladder, and then the next day a gastroenterologist goes in and does a procedure called an ERCP to look in the common bile duct and remove a stone if it's there. And that's 2 procedures, 2 anesthesias, potentially an extra 1 to 2 days, if you're lucky, in the hospital pending scheduling, versus the surgeon being trained to actually do the laparoscopic common bile duct exploration during the removal of the gallbladder, all in one procedure, one anesthesia. Patient may even go home the next day, right?
Absolutely. They could eventually go home the same day. It's really a no-brainer. So Jeff, thanks for all the questions about my curriculum. It's been great going down memory lane of how that all started. You, of course, have developed a bunch of successful simulation-based mastery learning curriculum for other procedural skills. Could you take us through, your thought process and the Thomas and Kern modeling for these?
Sure. For our curricula, we specifically have done this with thoracentesis, central line insertion, paracentesis, lumbar puncture, bedside procedures as a non-surgeon. And I think what you're going to find is, interestingly enough, our Thomas and Kern assessment was very similar to what you went through. Our general and targeted needs assessment were that these procedures were exceedingly being done outside of the realm of internists, where, they're the ones at the bedside. And in the olden days, I think 2008, the American Board of Internal Medicine required these procedures to be competent, but kind of took them away. Yet at the same time, we knew our residents were doing. So we wanted to make sure that our residents were trained to the highest level and that they didn't just learn it vicariously by see one, do one, teach one, which we know doesn't succeed at all. So that's, in general, our needs assessment is that residents were doing, we wanted them to be at the top of their game and knowing how to do them. Of course, our goals and objectives were similar: get the residents trained to mastery. Our strategy was simulation-based mastery learning. Interestingly enough, early on when we had paracentesis training, we couldn't find a commercially available simulator that we could pay for. So we actually created our own. It was a lot less complicated than your common bile duct exploration, but it highlights the area of innovations where you can, go create your own simulator, bring in the engineers, team with your university, get it done. Our implementation, I think, was also similar to yours. We've had some successes with training residents, fellows, as well as attendings and advanced practice providers, which certainly in surgery, maybe it's not appropriate to be training the advanced practice providers in this skill. I'm not sure. But our program director, just as yours, bought into it and made sure that all of our residents were trained.
Jeff, I wanted to just if you could expand on something we haven't touched on yet, the implementation phase, though. When something, so you've seen these good results and all of a sudden you're like, I need to implement this more broadly. And I know you've done this at the national level in the VA system with your central line mastery learning for central line. Could you talk about how to change the scale of this, how to take a curriculum like this to scale, because it's easy for you to be the teacher at your institution with your known residents, but how do you take it to scale? How do you scale it up?
Well, I think it's much in the same way you did it, and then obviously there's a bit of luck component, in all honesty, but it's the evaluation that gets you there. So we rigorously evaluated all of our curriculum, or at least the majority of them, thoracentesis, central line, paracentesis, and we really took it to patient outcomes and showed improvement in patient outcomes. For thoracentesis, we calculated a return on investment. For paracentesis, the return on investment was 5-to-1 from the simulation. For central line, it was 7-to-1 and just avoiding central line associated bloodstream infections. So showing some of these clinical outcomes really is powerful to get others interested in the curriculum, showing that the expense they invest into the curricula is going to bring back a 7-fold return, for instance. And the VA system saw that, and we were fortunate enough to partner with a company that, did the business aspects and got a contract with the Veterans Health Administration to disseminate the central venous catheter insertion curriculum. And I think we did about 126 VA visits across the country. Either which way, showing that clinical improvement, I think, is what perks people's hair out. And if you want the C-suite to listen, the CEOs of the hospital, in other words, or the CEOs of health systems, that's where you need to show these meaningful return on investment. There's a chapter dedicated into the book on return on investment strategies that is a little bit beyond the scope of this discussion, but I think that's really where, literally and figuratively, quote unquote, the money is. Well, thank you for coming to this discussion today. I always learn a lot when we talk.
Oh, it's great, Jeff. You've been an inspiration, and thanks for all the partnership.
And to our listeners, of course, thank you for listening again today. In future podcasts, we will continue to discuss key aspects of simulation healthcare education with experts in the field. Bye for now.